You're listening to The Social Workers on WCDB Albany.
Welcome to the Social Workers Radio Talk Show. I'm your co-host, Alyssa Lotmore. And with us today is Jessica Rodgers. Jessica is a senior at UAlbany, preparing to enter the Advanced Standing MSW program. She has an associate's degree in human services and is the president of the Baccalaureate Social Welfare Association. She has spent the last several months as an intern with the Independent Living Center of the Hudson Valley. Prior to going back to school to pursue a social work degree, Jessica worked with adults who had dementia and discovered a passion for direct care work that has not been satisfied by her previous field of public relations. When she's not studying or at work, she enjoys reading and playing video games. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you so much for having me.
First off, congratulations. I saw that from your bio that you're going to be going into the Advanced Standing program. So congratulations on pursuing your graduate degree and getting accepted into that program.
Thank you so much. That was such an honor and honestly such a relief to kind of have the next stage planned out. When I decided to go back to school, I knew I wanted to pursue my master's degree. So it's been a journey for the last few years of getting to this point, and I'm thrilled to to finally be able to say those words that yes, I will be starting this program.
Congratulations. So as your bio mentioned, you're the president of the Baccalaureate Social Welfare Association. Can you tell us a little bit about what you and the organization accomplished this year?
Sure. Last year was really our major project. We did a trunk or treat for the school, and we were so thrilled that Dr. Jones and Liberty Partnerships worked so closely with the BSWA to make it a really successful event. So we had the mayor there, we had the local assemblywoman come out, we opened it up for kids in the community, we had lawn games, a ton of student participation, which was fantastic. We were able to provide food and ice cream that we had donated, grocery stores donated water and gift cards. We had a bunch of local businesses donate prizes for our costume contest. It was just a really solid community event and a way to try to let the community know that the rising social workers in Albany want to really be actively involved in working with families and kids in the area. We're not just going to school here. We live here too, whether full-time or part-time, and we wanted to be able to give back that way. So that was such a fun event, really great time. We were hoping to do an event in April, and it looks like that probably won't be happening, just to highlight some of the opportunities in the School of Social Welfare for studying abroad. That was the idea that we've been bouncing back and forth and working on. But overall, I've just been really pleased with how the seniors stepped up, whether it was supporting trunk or treat or reaching out to make connections with the junior class, which was another project that we were very passionate about of creating community, not just in Albany, but also within the School of Social Welfare.
Well, I know that event was great, and the work that the Baccalaureate Social Welfare Association to engage not only students, but community, and it's made an impact. So I want to thank you for all of that.
Thank you very much.
You are passionate about making change in other areas. I've known you for the past few years and some of the things that you've been involved in. So can you speak a little bit about the topic that you were planning to present in person in April at the UAlbany Showcase?
Absolutely. One of my colleagues, Tamika, and I were going to be presenting together on a project that we started working on last year, talking about human trafficking and fair trade chocolate. It's an incredibly unfortunate reality that most of the chocolate industry, not just in the U.S., but across the world, benefits directly from human trafficking and from child slavery in order to harvest the beans that are used. So we wanted to highlight some of the alternatives and really challenge the school community at large to think about what our global impact is. You know, we work so closely with families. We do a lot of work on the micro level, but we can't forget, we can't deny that the little decisions that we make also have a global impact as well. So we'd been working on developing a project to feature at the showcase to really challenge people to start utilizing and purchasing fair trade chocolate and actively rejecting chocolate that doesn't have that fair trade label. It is a global billion-dollar industry. One person not buying chocolate obviously isn't going to have too much of an impact. But when you can start to create that community change and look at the overall picture and say, how can a small group of people impact this issue? The answer that we came up with was by changing our buying habits. And if we can do that as a larger community, as a school community, as a city, and start to grow it from there through word of mouth, through social media, that's when you start to see a difference. And when companies start to feel the pressure to seek out fair trade alternatives. There are some mainstream companies like Ben & Jerry's that have committed to using fair trade only products. So it's not completely out of the mainstream, but it's not as widespread as it really needs to be.
Well, one of the things that we always talk about, even in the school social welfare, is that even students can start to raise awareness about issues. And one of the great things about being in field placements and the social work profession as a whole is there's so many different areas that we work in. So even though I'm a licensed social worker, I still might not know about this area that someone's working in or this area, whether it's, HIV awareness or medical social work or school social work. There's such a broad spectrum. So having all social workers come together and students to share their expertise that they've been learning and developing through research with faculty or through their internships, it really helps social workers to be able to come together and get a bigger picture that we might not be as familiar with if we're just working in our own, with our own population or with our own agencies.
I love that. And it's why I was drawn to social work in the first place. Once I realized how broad it is. Growing up, I'd had a very, very narrow view of what a social worker was and what a social worker did. And as I became more aware of the field and I met a lot of social workers and realized how disparate their work was, I was very drawn to that and realizing how many opportunities there were that I didn't have to choose, I'm only going to work with kids. I can work with kids, but I'm not limited to that. There are so many opportunities and so many needs that can be met with the social work education.
And jumping into the internship piece that we were talking about, there is a required internship, as you know, for social work. And there's skills and competencies that were being taught to help prepare us to enter the profession. So can you talk a little bit about how your field placement has helped you grow and see the world more through a social work lens?
Absolutely. My internship has been a very unique experience. Listening to my classmates talk about their work, I think that they've had very, very different experiences than I've had. And I've just been thrilled to have my piece of it. I've worked with the Independent Living Center of the Hudson Valley and specifically with their program called Open Doors. It is a federally funded program that assists people who are in nursing homes to return to the community. So I've had a really nice taste of both the micro work as I have my clients and I work with their families and, help educate them on services. But I also have a larger picture of the macro work because I'm working with our housing specialists. I'm working with people in the office that do special needs trusts and help deal with the financial aspect, helping people get on Medicaid, figuring out what the barriers are to getting services, whether the issue for one of my clients is that their apartment isn't accessible on a bus line. And there's been a very difficult time getting aids into them. These are the broader issues that we don't always have a good picture of when we do direct care. So it's been really challenging to broaden my horizon beyond just my direct work of how can I help you and switch to what are the barriers to your services and how can I work on a larger level to knock those barriers down and ensure that you can live safely and independently in the community. We really have a philosophy of independent living. It is the Independent Living Center. And our belief is that everyone has the right to live as independently as possible. And that's going to look different for everyone. It's going to look different for you than it does for me, than it does for Susie down the street. But everyone should have that opportunity. And institutionalization is often unnecessary. So I've done a lot of education with families who think that their loved one has to be in a nursing home because they have dementia, or has to be in a nursing home because they're in a wheelchair. And so being able to do that educational piece of how we can still support them, how we can still ensure that they're safe, while giving them the opportunity to live out their most independent life.
That seems like a great internship and a really great experience to have, because sometimes when we go into the social work profession, or our classes, we have an idea of what we might want to do, what population we might want to work with. Was this something that you had originally thought you wanted to work in, this type of area?
So this is actually so funny for me. It's so full circle, because I had been working at a nursing home and I was working in Albany. I've started to become very frustrated because my residents would come to me with things that I couldn't help them with. And I found increasingly that I was referring them to social work, and I was being frustrated personally that I couldn't do anything. That's when it really clicked in my brain, oh, maybe social work is actually what I want to be doing. And I started to look into that more. So from that experience of leaving that job to go back to school so that I actively could gain the skills to help people in the situation that my residents were, to my internship where I have actually had clients at the nursing home that I used to work at, has been a very rewarding experience for me. I've been able to actually reconnect with a couple of my residents that remembered me from when I'd worked there in the past, and they're now on our client list. That hopefully will be able to assist them in leaving the nursing home. So if you'd asked me 10 years ago if I wanted to work with that population, I would have said no. It's not something I'd ever considered, ever thought about, but having had that taste of it and that experience, I love it. And I loved my residents, and it's any population that I can look at where you started and look at where you ended and see that tangible difference that I was able to assist with. That's what I'm seeking out. So it's been very rewarding, very full circle. I'm actually working as a result of that. I applied for and was accepted for the Internships in Aging project.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. Because I did want to continue working with the geriatric population. And I have learned how broad that field is, even more than I'd realized before.
And for those who don't know, the Internships in Aging project is a part of the school social welfare's master's program, and the students in that program are specifically working with the aging population. Their courses are geared toward the aging population and issues that might help impact that group. So it's a very hard one to get into. So congratulations.
Thank you. I'm very excited about it.
So you are a senior, you're almost done before heading on to graduate school. What do you see as a main highlight from your time here at UAlbany, particularly the past 2 years in the social welfare program?
My favorite experience that I have had at UAlbany, and we touched on it a little bit earlier when I was talking about the fair trade and the trafficking connection, is I took a class on human trafficking. And it was, in any educational setting I have ever been in, hands down the best class I've ever had, and completely opened my eyes to so many problems and so many issues that I'd never contemplated before. So I've been so thankful to the school for even offering that as a course. Oftentimes we talk about human trafficking broadly, we'll mention it here or there, but to have a whole semester that was just dedicated to all the ins and outs of it, I feel not only aided me personally and helped me grow as a person, but I know that it had an impact on my professional career and where I go from here. As I said, one of my favorite things about social work is how broad the field is and how many options there really are, which is good, because if I had to narrow down just one area that I was passionate about, I'm not sure I could do it.
Yeah. So one of the activities that we did at orientation 2 years ago, which I think was your orientation when you entered the BSW program, we had a giant hand-drawn tree, and it was called the Tree of Justice. And each student received a cutout of a leaf to be put on the tree. And there was a question on the leaf, and it said, "I am a social worker and I stand up for." So as we end this segment, I'd like to know how you would end that sentence. As a social worker, what do you stand up for?
I think what I wrote 2 years ago is still 1,000% true. So I think I have a broader view of it now than I did then. I wrote something along the lines of, I stand up for the rights of all humans, regardless of their age or their location. And in my initial writing of that, that was because I see so much discrimination, I see so much ableism, I see so much ageism. And having had this internship experience that I did, I think I can also look at location as being people that are in institutions and are discriminated against because of that. So I continue to stand for that. Anywhere that there's a vulnerable human whose life is being threatened, that's where social workers need to be. Anywhere that there is discrimination against any segment of the human population, that's where social workers need to be. I've had the opportunity with my internship as my macro project to work on assisted suicide and really stand up to defend the vulnerable and defend the population that's most at risk if this was legalized. And same thing, doesn't matter your age, doesn't matter where you are, you deserve protection, you deserve rights, and social workers need to be on the front lines of making sure that the stronger do not take away basic human rights from the weak.
You speak like a social worker, and you are going to be a great asset to this profession. And I want to thank you so much for being a guest on today and, sharing all this knowledge that you've been accruing these last, 2 years in our program and even before that with your experiences, your research. And thank you for coming on and sharing that with the public. And one of the things about our show is we always say the public is the client, and how do we get our message out to individuals who might never have considered seeing or using a social worker. So having you come on today and giving us some of this knowledge and sharing, what you were going to be presenting and the work that you've been doing, it's really great to be able to have you come on and get that message out to the larger audience. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you so much for having me. I so appreciate the opportunity. As I said, social work is so broad, and I love that you're featuring all the different aspects. So hopefully the public does have a better sense of what social work really means.
Well, thank you again. And to our listeners, again, this was Jessica Rodgers. She's a senior at UAlbany, getting ready to finish up her undergrad career before heading to the Advanced Standing Master's program for Social Welfare. So good luck to you in that. And thank you again, Jessica.
Thank you.
You're listening to The Social Workers on WCDB Albany.